The animated special that set the standard for Christmas tree purchases for decades is coming your way. Stay with us for a Charlie Brown Christmas.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. And Merry Christmas. And Merry Christmas to you, Eric.
Merry Christmas, Dean.
This is our official last episode before Christmas.
Yes. I missed out on Miracle on 34th Street. I was,
but you're here for this one. You're here for
this one.
This is the important. This is the one right before Christmas. This is the one. Hopefully, people are going to be listening to.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're listening to all of them. But when they're driving to relatives' house or whatever, you put this one on. This is the one we want you. We want you.
What I think it's cool is it's just you and me. So
yeah,
I felt it was appropriate.
It's been a while.
It's apropos to have just just
a fireside chat.
let's pare it down a little bit.
Yeah, you have the mood set. You got the tree behind you. Yeah. I feel like there should be a fireplace, a crackling fireplace behind you.
Well, we do have one, but
just
not. It's not in this room. It's in the other room.
Just drag a smoldering log in behind you. Just have it. Then all of a sudden the staircase is on fire.
Right, the embers creeping up. Yep.
Smoke alarm starts going off.
But, so let's just let's talk about our sweaters here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. This is a retread. I believe I wore this last year. Okay. And then I just realized as I was putting it on, I have two ugly sweaters and they're both Star Wars. That was not by design. It was by availability. What was
the
Baby Yoda, the Grogu sweater is coming back out for another year. And what do you have?
I have Smeagol. I got Gollum. Lord of the Rings. It's very nice background. It's blue. Yeah. So it's very it's sort of Christmassy. It's like a winter night scheme. But it's the cave, but they kind of made it look like he's in the middle of a. So he's caressing the precious. Yes, yeah. and to keep with the Charlie Brown the whole Charlie Brown theme of I don't have the hat, but I have my bald.
He's got his Charlie Brown head. Yeah. And I must say, these are a far cry from the sweaters Eric and I used to wear when we were younger men.
Oh, my goodness.
With our friend Johnny, we would go, one of our traditions when we were younger, we may have told this story before, but we'll tell it again. We used to, the three of us used to get dressed up for Christmas, sweaters and cardigans and the whole thing. We would do a gift exchange. At one of our, it would kind of rotate. Sometimes we'd be at Eric's house, sometimes at our friend Johnny's house, sometimes at my parents' house.
Yeah.
We'd do that. And then like the fancy gentlemen we would go to Charlie Brown's Steakhouse.
That's right.
And
that's right.
We would go to a restaurant and have a three gentlemen would have a fine dinner. With Coca-Colas. I don't think we were drinking age yet.
No.
And we would just enjoy the holiday. It was those simple things. Back then, and hopefully now that people are getting back to, especially now with everything that the past 2 years have gone through, that people are getting back to being together and celebrating whatever holiday it is you celebrate. Right. We hope that you guys have a great, happy and safe one. That's the message of the season. Really, is just kind of as gathering with loved ones and friends and really. Being thankful for everything.
You couldn't be more right about that.
Yeah.
It's been a tough few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're trying to get that spirit back and,
hopefully we've helped with our podcast. Hopefully we've helped come into your life and bring you some happiness and some joy, sometimes at my expense, sometimes at Eric's expense, and sometimes at our guests' expense, but it's all in good fun. And we love it. I was talking to somebody today, and they were asking me about this. I said, I absolutely love doing this. This is one of my favorite things that I've ever done. And it's an absolute joy. And hopefully that comes across to everybody listening, especially, like I said, during this holiday season. We want to wish everybody a great and happy holiday season. And we've got a holiday episode for you. This is a hybrid. This is you're getting a twofer. You're getting a 2-for-1 with this episode. We're going to talk about Charlie Brown Christmas. But since it's not a very long cartoon or
special
presentation special, we're going to finish that conversation. Then we're going to talk about the soundtrack. So you're going to get a true 33-24 experience. You're going to get a music and a movie in one episode, right? This is like probably the truest example of our podcast. We're not splitting hairs today. We're doing everything at once. So let's get right into it. Let's jump into this before this just itches and I start like breaking out in hives. I feel it starting to like. I have a short sleeve shirt on underneath, so like these balls are starting to like.
Oh my goodness! I didn't even notice those. Yeah. Wow,
this is the gaudiest shit thing you've ever seen in your life. It's got like fake lights. It's
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
that is.
It took a lot for me. Yeah, it took a lot for me to wear this. All right, let's get into the stats for a Charlie Brown Christmas. This was first broadcast December 9th of 1965. Yeah. So it does predate Eric and I. We can
it does, doesn't it? Yeah.
We can say that, yeah.
A full year.
Written by Charles Schultz, directed by Bill Melendez, who started out his career started out with Disney. He worked on Bambi. He worked on a lot of early Disney stuff, Pinocchio. As an animator, assistant animator, and then kind of parlayed into other things, Looney Tunes, and then really became connected to the Peanuts universe with this. He kind of became the director, sole director, and he was the voice of Snoopy in Woodstock.
Yeah.
This had a 96. I had it backwards. $96,000 budget. Little brief history about this. In 1965 or 1964, Lee Mendelson, who was a producer, he was trying to get a documentary off the ground about Charles Schultz called A Boy Named Charlie Brown. He was, there was this comic strip was very popular. He commissioned Bill Melendez, said, "Hey, could you do some like small animation for this documentary that we're doing or we're specking out?" There was no interest in the documentary. No one was interested in it. That was around April of 1966, Coca-Cola Company says, "Hey, we want to sponsor a holiday special this year." Coincidentally, Peanuts, who nobody was interested in at the time, the Peanuts gang was on the cover of Time magazine right at that point, and someone says, "Peanuts. What about Charlie Brown?" April. That was April of 1966. This was a 6-month turnaround to get this project done. I'm going to be honest. It shows, okay. In the production value, there's a lot, in the voicing and stuff like that. But that is also what gives it its
charm.
It's charm and its honesty and its truthfulness. This was literally scotch taped together within 6 months. They pulled this thing together up until. It was 10 days. It was completed 10 days before the broadcast. And a lot of the executives screamed it, said, "This is going to be a disaster." And if it wasn't completed so close to when it was aired, there were people afraid that they might have not aired it, but they were already committed to it. So a lot of executives that saw it before was like, "Oh my God, the animation, it's just not like the jazz music. What is this thing?" But they were incorrect. So
wasn't there even a moment where they wanted a laugh track on the thing, which would have been like, God, because most of the cartoons at the time, like the Flintstones, the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, all had laugh tracks.
Had laugh tracks.
That was like a popular thing. But Mendelson said no. He vetoed that.
Yeah, he's like, and speaking of Hanna-Barbera, Lee Mendelson, the producer, contacted Hanna-Barbera. They're like, "These guys are the professionals in doing TV animation and stuff. Like, let me get in contact with them. Let me see if I can get some tips." Hanna-Barbera never got back with them. They're like, "F you. We're not going to give our secrets away." So these guys were literally on their own trying to figure this thing out and get it done. So they got the child actors in. The kids are recording all their dialogue in the studio next door. Jefferson Airplane was recording. And Jefferson Airplane came in to get autographs from the kids. That's amazing. Who were recording the dialogue for for the Charlie Brown Christmas. So
Yeah.
none of these kids were professionals. They just wanted, like, Charlie Brown has to have a certain sound to him. You know, Charlie Brown could never sound excited. Charlie Brown is a very put upon individual. So they wanted somebody very blasé, and that's hard to find in a kid to deliver that, you know.
True.
It's easy for kids to be kids, like, you know, like Peppermint Patty or Sally. You know, it's easy for those kind
over
of kids
exuberant.
To be fun.
Even Lucy to a certain extent, who's it's the smart aleck or the you know, the bully in the room.
But,
you know,
but a kid that's constantly depressed is a different story.
Yeah, I mean, and to show that in the performance is I think that's what I love most about it. It's because you just feel so bad for him, you know?
Yeah. And it's very interesting, especially in 1965, you know, this is, you know, and Peanuts in general kind of set the tone for a lot of other comic strips of children that have adult problems and hangups.
Yeah.
Right. This whole, you know, Charlie Brown's existence is really about like being depressed and not feeling as good as, you know, or what's wrong with me, to the point where Lucy has a psychiatric booth, you know, and you put the nickel in and the doctor is in. Real, like, when you think about this, it's like, you know, they had kids like having these adult problems back then.
That's true. And who's her only patient is Charlie Brown. That's the ironic thing. She's got this whole booth just to kind of snow him into giving her.
Yeah. And she's the one that tortures him the most. So she's creating her own patient, basically.
That's right. That's right.
Like, she's literally, you know, like, not in this one, but the famous thing with Lucy and Charlie Brown is he wants to kick the football and she'll always pull it away. And she'll swear she won't do it. She promises this time, and he believes her. So that's not in this special, but that's like their ongoing thing.
Well, yeah, she's always trying to lift his spirits too. And the football is kind of representation of that. But it's like trying to, you know, get him out of his comfort zone all the time, and then at the last minute, you know, something
pull the ball away. Pull the ball away. It's awful. It's awful. And then of course we've got Snoopy, who is kind of like he's like the polar opposite of Charlie Brown. He's happy-go-lucky. He's got a grand and wild imagination. Everything that he's almost like the counterpart. You know, like I said, the polar opposite of Charlie Brown. And this, I love Snoopy in this one because, not because of, you know, he does the lights and display contest, so he sets up the doghouse like that. I love the animation of him when he's playing the guitar. When they're all like in the gymnasium or whatever, and he's got like his head down and he's just kind of like playing the bass, and he's kind of like in that jazz like beatnik look of him, you know.
And then he's like twirling around the thing and he's like spinning it, and it's like and everybody's just in their zone. That famous meme with Heya, you know, by Outkast, is fantastic. It's so spot on. Yep. And you could probably use, you know, so many other songs, but that's just absolutely brilliant. That whole
everybody is imitated the way they have those kids dancing. Some are like Frankenstein-y, and they all have their own individual style of dancing, which is very very interesting. So the whole thing is there's going to be a Christmas play. You know, Linus suggests, you know, getting involved. You know, Linus is almost like his consultant too. He's like the consigliere of Charlie Brown. Like Charlie Brown will go to Linus and talk to him about his problems. And Linus is very pragmatic, very practical, very sensible. He's kind of wise beyond his years.
Yeah.
You know, of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Brownest.
Yeah. He always delivers those great lines, but he's also, you know, you don't forget that he's a child, because he's always sucking his thumb with his blanket. He can't part with that blanket. That's his Achilles heel. But it's, I mean, and you would think that, you know, he's obviously Charlie Brown's closest friend, that, you know, his confidant, because not even Snoopy, you would think it's man's best friend, but Snoopy he's always kind of throwing him under the bus, isn't he?
Like, Snoopy does his own thing. Yeah,
he does his own thing, and he's like joining in with everybody else, laughing at him and stuff. I mean, I just, you know,
especially the scene when they're all laughing at him.
Bastard.
The scene where everybody's laughing at him at the school play, and everyone stops, and Snoopy's still laughing. You know, he's like,
yeah,
and then he's like, oh, oops,
the betrayal. You know,
even my own dog.
Yeah,
So Charlie Brown has the blues during the season, which is not uncommon. Some people kind of don't, the season comes and really don't know, and that's why this is such adult material
it hits home
even in the 60s to present to kids. That's why maybe the producers or people, powers that be thought, oh my God, this is going to be like what the hell, but get involved, become, be the director of the play, of the Christmas play. So he takes over. He really kind of starts to, here's your lines. You got to do this. Given the stage direction, when I wave my arm, stage right, do this. And, and he's talking, and it turns out they're not listening because the music starts again and they're all dancing. When every time he's trying to get his point across, they just start dancing.
He's got absolutely no respect. It's like, and he's doing everything right too. That's the sad thing. He's really into it. He's the first time he's actually showing some kind of confidence, and he's really getting into this, and it breaks your heart. I mean, it just kind of like
out the parts. You're the innkeeper's wife, and you're this, and
everybody's just goofing off. And Charlie Brown. So why should we, why should we give a crap? And
he's like, let's take this seriously, and it's it's So then they come upon the idea of, we'll get a Christmas tree. That'll help our play. It'll kind of, brighten things up. And much like, oddly enough, much like we talked about in Miracle on 34th Street, they want a big fake pink shiny Christmas tree, a fake one. And Charlie Brown laments that. It's like that, just what we're kind of talking about, like the commercialism of Christmas, what, and Charlie Brown is questioning, what's the spirit of Christmas about, and so him and Linus go to the Christmas tree emporium, and there's all the fake trees, but there's that one, the only one live tree that's there.
That's sad sack of a tree.
Little twig, but Charlie Brown, there's that connection and looking for the true spirit of Christmas inside all of this fake stuff, all of these fake trees. The true spirit of Christmas is the real tree, is the metaphor, or the sad sack that Charlie Brown is. He, connects with the tree in the same way.
The tree is him.
Yeah.
In a sense, there's it's absolutely him. And that's what attracts him to it. And he brings it back. And of course, everybody,
he gets roasted. I mean, he gets
everybody.
Roasted.
Oh my God. And, that's the scene where even Snoopy turns against him. And it's just,
you're hopeless, completely hopeless.
And all he wants to do is he goes, we need a tree. We have to set the proper mood. He thinks that this is going to save the day and have everybody just take this, stuff seriously and really get into the spirit of Christmas. And nobody, they just want to do what, the commercialism.
We told you to get a fake tree. We told you to get the pink metal tree or whatever it is, and he's trying, he's trying to, use his best judgment. That's, that's kind of like what Charlie Brown is, I think, he tries to always do the right thing. He never kind of does anything mean or, never does anything nasty to anybody. He's just kind of there observing and trying to just like call it as he sees it. And he's like, yeah, well, look at, we'll get this tree. I think it represents the spirit of Christmas. And they just lay into him mercilessly. Like,
yeah.
Like,
and later, and this really, starts to take its toll, and it just kind of manifests itself. And he's like, but on the other hand, it gets to that point, and then this is the moment where Linus lays in and says,
"Yeah, he saves the day."
I could tell you what Christmas is all about, and then there's that wonderful monologue of reading chapter and verse from the Bible, and the whole the nativity scene, and Christopher Shea, who's the little actor that played him, who went on to do, he did bit parts in like the Brady Bunch. You see, like he's kind of this child actor. I've seen him in The Odd Couple. He's like the next door neighbor, the weirdo kid. And so he might be actually the most popular of the bunch. I think he actually did more than anybody else. And I think he had a twin brother, if I'm not mistaken either. Yeah, Eric. His name is Eric. So you did see both. both actors, they did their, Little House on the Prairie and all these other kinds of shows. But anyway.
Yeah. The producers, again, were also worried about this scene too. They're worried about the religious part. They're like,
yes. Yeah.
Do we want to go there? Do we want to put that in? And I think Charles Schultz or Lee Mendelsohn, the producer, was like, this is it. It's not negotiable.
Yeah.
This is this is it. This is part of it. Like it's important to the story. Yeah. And it's important to the spirit, even if you're not Christian or Catholic. It's kind of ties the whole story together. It was, like I said, it's Linus's kind of monologue to kind of bring the whole spirituality part of Christmas in to kind of counteract the commercialism of well, let's not forget it's also a religious holiday, and it could be the Santa holiday for people as well, but there's also a religious aspect to it, and let's not and maybe we need to kind of push that in a little bit with the commercialism to have people remember.
Of course, all of this could have been avoided if Linus had told them in the very beginning when he goes to right there, the two of them are talking. He's, I don't know, Linus. I don't know what Christmas is all about. And Linus could have just told them right then and there.
You wouldn't have had the special, and he probably didn't think the depression was that severe. Everything I could talk him down, tell him to direct the play, and it'll be fine.
Right.
Like that's the prescription for him, but it got more serious.
Yeah, so because of this monologue, something lights, a candle, a spark, if you will, into Charlie Brown, and he with a smile on his face, he picks up the tree. He decides, I'm not going to let all this BS ruin my Christmas. I know what Yeah. So he decides to take the tree home. I'm going to take this little guy home and decorate it. And I'll show them what Christmas is really about. And he takes it home. And then he, of course, on the way, you see Snoopy's doghouse adorned with, just nonsense,
propellers on it and all kinds of crazy stuff on it.
The gaudiest looking thing that you've ever seen. And he takes a couple of like Christmas ornaments off there and he puts it on the tree, and what happens? The tree,
just like everything else in my life. And he kind of
killed it. And when he walks away and they play, "Oh Christmas Tree," like the music, it's just, oh my God, it's so,
Yeah, you hear the kids, you hear that vocal thing of the ooh, and they all come over. Maybe it's not, it's not such a poor looking tree after all. And he puts, and that's when Linus puts the blanket around. Maybe it just needs a little love, and they put the blanket around it, and then they start taking all the ornaments off of Snoopy's house, and the tree looks beautiful. It's
miraculously the tree is full. It's alive. It's a fir tree. It's like all of a sudden it's like green and lush, and because of the spirit. Yes, and it's such a beautiful, pleasant, tale. It's great. And that's what really sold it. I think it was. Yes, the animation's crude. The voices are not quite synced right, and all that kind of. You hear the edits. You hear the background, like the hiss, and where did they record this thing? Like, you
could hear that they had the kids like say one line at a time, because it's got like those stops, like those abrupt stops at the ends of sentences. They had to work with what they had. Like I said, they only had 6 months to do it.
But that's what gives it. I think it's almost realistic in a way, because that's how kids talk. They're not very articulate when they speak, right? I mean, when they're just little kids, so it adds that little bit to it, that sort of realism. So maybe, who knows? Maybe somebody actually, I wouldn't say they did it on purpose, but it worked out. It works. It does work.
Yeah, in spite of itself, the animation is very basic. They, just moving the mouths and the bodies are very static. Again, they didn't have a lot of time to do it, so they really had to kind of work quickly and work efficiently with what they had. And put it together. And like you said, it in spite of that, or again, you said it in the beginning, that's what its charm is in. It's in there because and that's what makes it good is despite that you're hooked into the story. Like, and that's the thing is, no matter how crude everything might be, it's just you're following along with it. The characters are there. Charlie Brown is as this was kind of like this kid set the template for Charlie Brown, at least in animation going forward, of how this kid acts, what his voice mannerisms are, and how Linus is. They didn't do it throughout. These kids were young, and this started like every year after this, almost, they had a new Charlie Brown special out. And these kids were cycling in and out. There's, like they would end up getting different kids as they would
different actors. So, yeah. And you could definitely tell through the years, but you can't beat the original cast because they're so cute too. I mean, the kid, the way they talk, and it adds that, especially like people like Sally, when she's going through her, I want my fair share. I want my, she's like, I want money. I want this. I want money. What are you talking about?
Tens and 20s.
Again,
it goes right to that commercialism. They do it quicker than Miracle on 34th Street. I mean, these guys do it in 25 minutes. They get right to the heart of what the problem is that Charlie Brown is blue and depressed and is losing that feeling, and he's seeing that all around him. He's seeing Snoopy enter the contest. He's seeing his sister Sally just talk about what she's going to get from things. So he's surrounded by that, and then the kids are telling him to get the prettiest fake tree, metal pink tree you can find. So he's inundated with all that, and it just takes this one little tree to kind of cut through all that, and he decides, well, this is what it is. This is what it's about. And he's still, and that's the thing, is he stands the ridicule of everybody still. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. He's very kind of like he doesn't fight them back. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to take the tree home then, and I'll fix it up. So he's kind of, they really roast him, but in the end, they kind of rally around him. And that's what makes the end. Like I said, they sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing. For that, they got a real chorus. Of real kid singers to do that, and actually, that's a good. I think that's a good transition point. We'll kind of transition into the soundtrack. Those kids in the chorus, the guy that was the chorus director was like a taskmaster, and he wanted these kids to be singing perfectly in key. And Lee Mendelsohn or Bill Melendez said, no, kids don't sing perfectly in key. We want kids to sound like kids singing. We want it just to kind of have that. Not a professional chorus feeling like that. These are the kids out there singing. So they had to work with those kids, and they kept some of these kids, they kept late into the night, and their parents didn't bring them back the next day. So they had to get new kids in the chorus because they worked them so hard, and they were bribing them with ice cream to, if you stay, we'll give you ice cream. No, they did like all this crazy stuff, but we left out of the conversation the soundtrack, and that is its whole other conversation. Which,
oh my goodness, yes,
the music for this matches. Well, let's. I have some stats about that. First of all, the soundtrack went 5 times platinum. Mm-hmm. There was one single released at the time. Christmas Time Is Here Again. It went to number 41 on Billboard. This is the second best-selling jazz album in history.
That's amazing.
Second only behind Miles Davis's A Kind of Blue.
Kind of Blue. Yep.
So this is a certified jazz album. Now, originally Dave Brubeck was approached and agreed to do the work on this, and then he dropped out for unknown reasons. He recommended. He said, contact Vince Guaraldi, and he'll do it. And it was recorded. The theme song, which is not called Peanuts. A lot of people think that that theme song is Peanuts. It's called Linus and Lucy.
Linus and Lucy,
which is the theme song. That he recorded that in 1964 because he was involved in the in that aborted project, the documentary. The rest of the soundtrack was recorded in 1965. And this sets this as much as the music plays heavily into this special, and it sets a somewhat of a somber tone. This isn't like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like show tune style. That came out in 64, Rudolph. It's, it's not that Fame and Fortune and Silver and Gold. This is very, kind of
it's downbeat.
Yeah.
There's a lot of downbeat.
Not depressing, but kind of somber and maybe a little melancholy. But
melancholy could be the right word. Yeah,
it fits.
Enough so that they actually use it in Arrested Development.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Michael Cera's character who plays the son. every time, because he's kind of like this sort of introverted kid, and whatever. So every time something goes wrong with him, they play the like with his head down, like just like Charlie Brown.
That's his cue. That's his music.
It's so great, But but I have to say, I mean, just to comment on the album itself. I mean, this is only what his eighth record that he did. Right.
So, yeah. I mean, he was around. He had a minor hit, a minor jazz hit, but yeah, he was kind of kicking around.
Yeah. And I have to say, this is my all-time favorite Christmas album.
Yeah.
And I never tire of it. It doesn't date. It doesn't. I can never get sick of it. People today are very jaded by Christmas music. It seems like, oh, it's the one thing that we are not looking forward to. You see it all over Facebook. Oh, Mariah Carey and everything. And yeah, I can understand some of that, but no, I don't think anybody can dispute that this is what people want to hear at Christmas. I think it's my subjective opinion, but I just think that it's a gem, and it's just an absolute, and that's it really gets. And despite its melancholy nature, it really puts you in the mood. I mean,
it's got a warm feeling to it. Also,
it's introspective. It makes you think.
Yeah,
don't you agree? Yeah. I mean, it kind of just it just really makes you it's the time of year of reflection, and you're in the spirit, but also you're also thinking about the entire year. At least for me, I mean that's what it does for me. And I just
it's absolutely glass of eggnog. Mm-hmm. The tree is on, the lights are down, and you put this music on, and it kind of puts the capper on the end of maybe a long work day or a long work weekend.
That's right.
And you can kind of put this on and kind of let yourself decompress. And the fact that it's a trio, also, it's a jazz trio, so it's not big arranged music. It's not
right. It's not a big band.
The drums are very sedate with the brush. A lot of brush work, and you've got some bass kind of going. He gets to go off on some tangents, just like great jazz has. This is a certifiable jazz album. It's just Christmas themed stuff, and Vince Guaraldi's really good at improvisation and then getting back to the main frame of the song, especially since it's a Christmas song. You want it to be recognizable.
That's right.
As well, without going too far out. And they really do a sublime job on this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it is a really, like I said, it's a 5 times platinum album, but if people haven't listened to just the soundtrack, it's on streaming, it's on Spotify. Mm-hmm. Put it on. It's there's some more music on there than what was in the special, so there's some great stuff in there also. And it's
not only that, but it's been re-released several times.
Yeah, many times
with new music attached. There's like I think like a 10-minute version of Green Sleeves, which is gorgeous.
Yeah,
I think in one of the re-releases, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, and studio outtakes. I mean, they've given it the box set
the treatment. Yeah, it's like a prop. It's like a jazz album proper. Yeah. I mean, it is. I can't think of any other Christmas album that people have done that with. Like you typically find this stuff in like a big cardboard box in the store, like, and you're just shifting through the CDs. Remember, like Christmas albums. Oh yeah, I can't believe. I forgot that she and he made a Christmas album, and you're kind of sifting through. This is like, it has its own place on the shelf. It's like, it's premier, top tier, top shelf stuff. So
this was one of the first CDs I ever bought. It came out in 1988 from the original release. Came out in 1988 from Fantasy Records. And I remember, I don't know why, I never had it on cassette. I don't know what possessed me, but it's, and I still have that original release CD. It was, it's kind of like, I just grabbed it. I'm like, yeah, let me have this in my collection. And so I've been on it since forever, and I really encourage people, if they haven't ever given just the soundtrack a listen, it is a separate experience. Like I said, when you listen to, you can separate this from the special.
Mm-hmm.
Like when when I listen to this, I'm not really thinking about Charlie Brown. I'm taking in the music, and I'm taking in what the performance is and what the music is saying. I'm not thinking, oh, this was the scene when doing this, except for this song Skating with the tinkling piano. It's like, well, that's when that's in the beginning, from the beginning when they were skating, but otherwise it's a great musical holiday trip that you can go on. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's not it's not all the standards that you kind of grow tired of it. There's original stuff in there, that is perfectly suited for the season. And yeah, if you're wrapping gifts or you're having a party and you have something on,
just to have something on in the background.
It's not singing, it's not words, it's not going to get in the way. It's going to be nice, kind of, like I said, a nice jazz trio, which is, again, that was another concern that these producers had. They're like, what are you doing with like jazz music?
Yeah.
Like in a kid's cartoon, like there was so many things. The deck was stacked so many different ways against this production. Not a lot of confidence from the powers that be that made it, and it went over budget. I said it was 96,000. It was supposed to be 76,000. They even went 20,000 over budget. So there was just not a lot of good, for a Christmas special, not a lot of goodwill behind it. But like you said, despite that, the charm of the special is there, and then the charm of the music is there as well.
I just think the music it adds something.
It's peaceful.
That
it's peaceful.
It's peaceful, but it ties into what the theme of the heart and soul of what it's all about. And let's not forget, like Charles Schultz's comic strip. It's a very sophisticated piece of art. You got little kids, like you say, like with adult themes and dealing with adult problems. It's like that's a very unusual kind of thing. So I think it's the perfect complement to it, so, and then he would go on to do all the other specials as well, like, the Halloween and the Thanksgiving and, that.
Yeah. It became almost like a cottage industry of
that's right.
Lee Mendelson producing, Bill Melendez directing, and Vince Guaraldi doing the music,
Yeah.
When the soundtrack first came out in the 60s, it was just credited to Vince Guaraldi. Later on, they fixed it to Vince Guaraldi Trio, and then apparently Vince Guaraldi was so horrible at keeping studio notes that they had difficulty. Some people had come years later and they were like, "No, that's me on that track in that session, and I'm not getting credit." And they had to go back and do research, and it turns out there was all these, it was a trio. It wasn't just always the same trio. He would have different people come in, but he never kept track of it. And then they weren't, and they used different takes in the special than they did. Like they did stuff for the special and then they redid it on the album. So it's a little bit different. So he used different people. So there's guys like, wait, I was on the TV one, but I don't appear on the album. And it became like this
where's my royalties?
Exactly. It became a tangled web of who's getting paid, but nevertheless, it's a gorgeous album.
Really
it's just, I love listening to it. I love the brushes, it's just a classic trio. That you hear that upright bass, like,
yeah, that's right.
Just really kind of, if you're not into jazz, this might be a good toe in the water to kind of get yourself into it and kind of check out what was going on at the time in the 60s.
Right,
that kind of stuff.
It's a really high watermark for piano as well, because there's no guitar to speak of. I mean, that would come later. Especially it's the 70s.
Yeah.
So he added that sort of bluesy guitar to the element too.
Yeah.
Sort of that B.B. King style, that tone. I think it's in the Thanksgiving one where it's like, it's very much of its time. But
this is very spare.
But it's very spare and it's very elegant and it's just, and
just like the cartoon, it's spare. Yeah. The cartoon was spare. And this wasn't done. It probably wasn't done with that in mind. But when you think about it, the soundtrack is very spare. It's very, very bare bones, but to the point. And that's the way the special is. It's very bare bones, but it's to the point. And everything matches, oddly enough. It's these things sound like they shouldn't go together, kids with real world problems talking about depression and religion and commercialism of Christmas. And then let's put a jazz trio soundtrack under it. On paper, it should be, it doesn't work, but it's beautiful.
Feel like a disaster, wouldn't it? What are you thinking here? But it defies tradition. It defies all of the, the tropes of the time. And
almost 60 years later, 58 years later.
And that's why it still holds up. in that
Yeah.
regard. I think it was very bold.
Yeah.
It's a very bold piece of work. Yeah.
Yeah, you used to look forward to it every year. I mean, that was, with streaming now, I think Apple has the rights to it.
Yeah.
They had it free for a couple of days over the weekend. You could actually watch it for free. But what's with streaming now, like they've got that. Someone else has Rudolph. Someone has How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's like when we were younger on TV, it was all, it was just what channel was it on? Some were on channel 2, some were on 4, some were on 7, 11, or whatever. Yeah. But you were able to access all of it, and it was all, in viewable chunks. You'd get an hour of Rudolph, and then the next week would be Frosty and Charlie Brown, and all these were part of the patchwork of holiday viewing. It was this was like, these were like prime time events. It would be,
That's
Charlie
right.
Brown was a half hour and the Grinch was a half hour, so you'd probably get those two together.
If I'm not mistaken, it was either I'm pretty sure it was either always on a Monday night, right, or Wednesday of the week. It was they never actually play it on Christmas. You never saw the specials on Christmas. It was always
in the run up to
the week before, just to prepare you and to get you going, and rightly so, because it does put you in the spirit.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. So
and it was an opportunity to put toy commercials in there too, and then the kids could haunt the right kids
the
could
Steers,
haunt the parents,
with the catalog and
Toys R Us, Child World, all that, all those classic things, and but you would wait for those as a kid. You'd be able to stay up, like, it's on at 8:00, 8:30, and then the next couple of days it'd be another one.
Who was the spot? I believe it was York Peppermint Patty, obviously. But what was the name? What was the company? The chocolate company that
make York?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
They were the sponsors for the peanut all the peanut specials, I think.
Well, not this one. This one was Coca-Cola.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, Coca-Cola sponsored this one because they wanted something for the holidays. Hershey Company makes peppermint patties.
Okay.
So maybe in later years, but this one was the idea of Coca-Cola looking for somebody, some project they didn't even know. And like I said, it was only because the Peanuts characters appeared on the cover of Time magazine that March or April. And like, oh, wow, this seemed to be popular. Let's do that. And it kind of green lit this whole thing when they were just trying to get a documentary off the ground that nobody wanted to do. So an amazing story, like I said, 6 months to get this thing from zero to ready for broadcast is just absolutely amazing. How think about animating coming. I think Charles Schultz. I think they took the meeting. I think they took the meeting on a Wednesday, and the executive said we need a script by Monday, the following Monday. And I think Charles Schultz and Lee Mendelson worked together and said, okay, Charles Schultz was like, it needs to be about the spirit of Christmas. We know that, and they kind of, and it pretty much did not change from what they submitted that Monday. The story really didn't change that much, all too much. So they had the idea once they kind of workshopped it and brainstormed it. They had their idea and they kind of stuck with it through thick and thin. So that's just an amazing story of people coming together and we've got an opportunity. We can have a Christmas special sponsored by Coca-Cola, but we've got 6 months to make an animated thing. Let's call Hanna-Barbera.
Leave it to voicemail.
Is Hanna or Barbera going to pick up? No. They're doing the Jetsons. Sorry.
Yeah.
So just like I said, it's an amazing story. So it is, like I said, it's streaming on Apple. It is on physical media, so you can check it out. It's a perennial, even if it's not on broadcast TV. It's just one of those, Peanuts have become since then, Peanuts have become even more beloved because, like I said, it became a yearly thing of just putting out a different year in love Charlie Brown. It's Valentine's Day Charlie Brown. It's tax season Charlie Brown. It's, whatever they had a
4th of July.
You're being foreclosed on Charlie Brown. They had all kinds of real world problems for him
tax season.
It's tax season, Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Why do I have to pay taxes? No. But I was thinking, who a relatively recent maybe inspiration was Calvin and Hobbes.
I love Calvin and Hobbes.
Because Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin, he had those existential questions also, and he had a sidekick that was real to him.
Kind
of the opposite of Snoopy. Snoopy was real, had a whole separate imagination, but when everybody else saw him, he was a dog. and Calvin and Hobbes was a stuffed tiger, but it was real to Calvin. And they would have those existential conversations, or even with his father, like, oh, why do we have to do this? And why do people have to go get jobs? And, like all that kind of stuff. So I think he's and
I love the way the kid is drawn in that comic. It's just, I just laugh every time.
Yeah,
with the triangular mouth, and when he's excited, he's like, like it has that face, and and the hair is like swept back every time they're like going down the hill on a sled, it's just fantastic.
It's great stuff. But I think that's going to do it for this. You got a twofer, and I think this is a great 1-2. This is something that can be enjoyed either way. If you're not a Christmas special person, check out the soundtrack. If you're not the soundtrack person, you know what? Go find this, and if you want some holiday to watch, and it's quick. It's 25 minutes, not very long, so you can kind of cycle it in. If you're doing a binge of movies and you're watching Elf and Home Alone or whatever, you can kind of put this in between it as a little
sneak it in there.
Yeah, a little palate cleanser if you're doing a binge marathon. Otherwise, like I said, you go with the music. I've had it on the car when I'm driving around. It's just great during the holidays when you're getting errands done. Have this kind of stuff on in the background. It's just really fantastic. So, what do you think? That's going to do it. I think
so. I think we made our case. We made our point.
We definitely made our case. And
did we sell it? I think we sold it.
I think we did. We sold it. We without the commercialism of Christmas. We also embody the true Christmas spirit. I mean, what how else could we not with these sweaters and the hat? All this stuff's going to go back into the storage until next year, until we bring you some more holiday episodes next year. But as we said in the beginning, right, Eric, we want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday, and however and wherever and whenever you celebrate, we want you to be safe and safe and happy. And we thank you. We're always
families,
thankful.
Hug your loved ones, appreciate people, appreciate who you have in front of you. And just enjoy the holidays, folks. Yeah. We're just
go spike the eggnog. Spike the eggnog. Yeah. After you do all that, then you go into the kitchen.
After you spend maybe 10, 15 minutes or maybe a half hour, maybe then it starts. Yeah, then you start looking.
Go into the kitchen, uncork the flask, and pour it into the eggnog. And I don't know how that got done.
Yeah.
Well, we're wishing we hope Santa Claus is good to everybody this year, and you get what you desire. But we enjoy our greatest gift. You've given to Eric and I is just coming and spending time with us is a gift enough for me this year. It makes me very happy, and it warms my heart. And it warms my heart to spend every Monday or sometimes 2 times a week with Eric, talking about the things that we love to do. There's no better feeling, and there's no better gift that I could get.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well said, sir. Well said, sir.
a single tear rolls down his cheek. And shows that he is human after all. His heart grew 3 times that size, or whatever.
That day, and whatever.
Anyway, we'll leave it there before it goes off the rails. So, for Eric, this has been Dean wishing everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and don't forget to be kind and rewind. And because it's appropriate, we'll catch you on the flip side as well.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Cooper. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.